Hello there everyone, and welcome to another Thomas Wooden Railway review video. Today we are taking a look at Diesel 10. Now this is the Day of the Diesels release of Diesel 10. I do also happen to have the original Thomas and the Magic Railroad release of Diesel 10, and I am going to be doing some comparison between the two. But at the moment, I'm going to be focusing on this guy right here. I've been giving a little bit of biography about Diesel 10. Now, Diesel 10 was introduced as the main villain of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, the very first movie about Thomas the Tank Engine that came out in 2000. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have fond memories of going to the movie theater and seeing Thomas on the big screen for the first time. Although I've heard that there are actually some people that did not think Thomas and the Magic Railroad was that good. I personally disagree with that. I mean, I will admit that it's not the best movie about Thomas that has been brought out, but it's certainly not the worst either. It certainly was the first time where we ever saw or ever heard the characters with their own individual voices, as opposed to having the narrator do it all. Now, Diesel 10 also made a couple of appearances after Thomas the Magic Railroad. He appeared in Calling All Engines, but he did not really do much, other than at the end where he helped to clear the mess that Thomas made at the airfield. And Thomas had to get the courage to ask Diesel 10 for help because of how scary Diesel 10 was. And, you know, I guess it can be easy to understand that Thomas would think Diesel 10 was scary, considering how Diesel 10 was determined to get the steam engine scrapped in Thomas and the Magic Railroad by destroying Lady. Diesel 10 then appeared again in Day of the Diesels, although he also made a brief cameo appearance at the end of Misty Island Rescue in the epilogue scene. And, you know, the story in Day of the Diesels, Diesel 10 was sad that the Diesel Works was old and rusted, and he wanted to get Sir Topham Hatt's attention to get the Diesel Works repaired, even as far as taking over the steamworks. But in the end, they were able to get the Diesel Works repaired, and that made Diesel 10 happy. Now, what's interesting is that during the first couple of times that we've seen Diesel 10, he's only appeared in specials. It wasn't until season 17 of the series where Diesel 10 made his first appearance in an episode, and that was in The Missing Christmas Decorations, where Diesel 10 was, you know, sad because the Diesel Works did not have very many Christmas decorations compared to the steam engines, and he thought that Sir Topham Hatt cared more about the steam engines than the diesels. But as it turned out, Sir Topham Hatt actually did send decorations for the Diesel Works, but Diesel 10 did not find that out until after he had stolen quite a lot of the steam engines' decorations. So, it was certainly great to see Diesel 10 in an episode for the first time. I don't know if we're going to see him again in an episode, or if we're going to see him in another special. I mean, I'm not quite sure what Diesel 10 could do, but he is certainly a character that is worth having around and having all sorts of future adventures with. It certainly would be interesting to see Diesel 10 actually take on the role of a main character, or maybe the person that, engine that saves the day. You know, like, have some sort of unlikely hero story that stars Diesel 10, like maybe he goes off against another engine that is really bad, and Diesel 10 is the one that actually saves the day. So it would be interesting to see something like that. Maybe an episode called The Unlikely Hero. That would certainly be interesting. So anyway, now to go over the whole design of Diesel 10. Now, Diesel 10 is painted in this dark, or kind of a dark tan, kind of greenish color of some sort, kind of a light brown or an olive color. I'm not entirely sure what it is. There are these lines going across Diesel 10's side, and he also has windows, but what's odd is that we don't ever actually see a crew working inside of Diesel 10. Yeah, since Thomas and the Magic Railroad did not show any of the human characters that were on Sodor. It kind of seemed as though Sodor did not even have any human characters in existence, but that's kind of hard to believe considering the TV series has the engines with a crew. But, you know, it's kind of questionable about the canonicity of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, whether or not it actually fits into the show's canon. I mean, it surely should, because Diesel 10 has appeared again after Thomas and the Magic Railroad, but as far as the engines being able to move on their own without a crew, I'm pretty much going to say that the most logical explanation for that is that the engines do still have a crew in Thomas the Magic Railroad, we just never see them. I mean, we don't ever see the inside of an engine. Well, I suppose we do see the inside of an engine's cab, although, as you saw during the chase scene, Burnett got into Lady, and he was driving her, and, you know, other than that, we don't really see the inside of very many engines' cabs, or at least not all that well. So it's possible that the crew may still be there, we just don't see them. Now here's a little comparison between these two versions of Diesel 10. Here is the Day of the Diesels version, which came out in 2011, and the Thomas and the Magic Railroad version that came out in 2000. So, as you can see, there are a few chip marks in this Diesel 10 because of how old it is and how much it's been played with. Now, the thing here is that the Claw, who's called Pinchy in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, but it's not referred to as such in Diesel 10's subsequent appearances. Diesel 10 kind of actually treated his claw as if it had a mind of its own, which is something that's not even shown or implied in, in any of Diesel 10's later appearances. So Diesel 10 in this version has a very angry-looking face, where he's like just very determined to get rid of the steam engines. And the claw right here is actually a bit bent up because when I was playing with this as a kid, I actually had the stopper point actually go beyond how far it was supposed to. In fact, I could probably have it extend out like that. That's not really how it's supposed to go right there. In fact, I don't even know if I can get... Okay, there we go. Yeah. Probably not something that you should really do. In fact, I would recommend against you even doing that. I just wanted to give you an example to show you that I did something like that. The claw is a bit bent from play before. And, you know, the same feature with the claw being able to move in and out on Diesel 10's cab. Something I've heard is that Diesel 10 was originally supposed to have some sort of open roof that his claw would come out from. And I think that was kept in the books, but it was not something that was implemented into either the movie or in any appearances that Diesel 10 has had after that. Now, Diesel 10 is shown to have a much happier face on this version right here, because he's a bit more calm. He's not against the steam engines as much as he was in Magic Railroad, but he still was kind of feeling a bit down that the steam engines just seemed like it was much like the steam engines were taking over the railway, or they were superior, on the railway, and Diesel 10 felt a bit sad because he thought that nobody liked diesels. But he just needed to learn that Sir Topham Hatt liked all of his engines, not just the steam engines. Now, I have also seen the Thomas Wood version. Well, not in person, but I've seen images of the Thomas Wood version. And the thing here is that the Thomas Wood version, which I don't even have right now, is, you know, pretty much shorter, because that's how they do with the Thomas Wood line. But, you know, I think that having a Thomas Wood Diesel 10 would actually work out with having this fan character called Diesel 9, who, if you don't know, I'll tell the story about Diesel 9. You see, this YouTube user called the Railway Inspector, later the Railway Inspector 3, had made this narrow gauge engines movie using his Ertl models for the narrow gauge engines, but he used Hornby for the standard gauge engines. There was this sort of story where Diesel 10 had this brother called Diesel 9 who looked identical to him, but he was narrow gauge. And, you know, you're probably going to have to check out the narrow gauge movie on the Railway Inspector 3's YouTube channel to find out the whole story about that. But I was thinking that if I had gotten a Thomas Wood Diesel 10, I could probably have that be portrayed as Diesel 9. You know, like maybe do all sorts of different storylines that take place after the narrow gauge movie, where Diesel 9 comes back, but he, you know, much like Diesel 10, he's more accepted among the narrow gauge engines. And, you know, just forgiving him for what he attempted to do in the narrow gauge movie, what he and Diesel 10 were attempting to do, might be something that could be done, although I'm not sure if I will actually do any more episodes of with my wooden railway trains. But if I do decide to do that, it might be something that I could do. So anyway, that is my review on the Thomas Wooden Railway Diesel 10, looking at both the 2001 release with the Thomas and the Magic Railroad line, and then the 2011 release that came out during Day of the Diesels. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.